Folks, we're welcoming in our political panel. Jessie Jane Duff is a retired Marine gunnery sergeant, also co-chair of the Veterans for Trump Advisory Board, serves on the advisory board for Women for Trump as well. Also joined by Tom Basile, author and Newsmax columnist. Both of you, welcome. And Jessie Jane, we're going to start with you. We're seeing more and more companies cave to left-wing demands out there, whether it's the NFL giving full-throated support for kneeling and disrespecting our flag and our anthem, or Quaker pulling back the Aunt Jemima brand. Why are these corporations buying into this idea that America is racist?
You know, they're trying to appease a base without even looking at what the outcome could potentially be. You know, we should all be proud of the American flag. We should all be proud of the national anthem, because these are the things that unite us instead of divide us. And if you're going to make blanket statements about the United States being racist, that's flagrantly false. It's unequivocally false. You have to look at all the goodness in this country instead of looking at all the negative. And when you see these corporations that are acquiescing, how many of them have even investigated where some of these movements are funded by? We know that communist China has been funding Antifa and Black Lives Matter. We all agree that Black Lives Matter. We all believe and support that all lives matter. And yet I'll get trashed for equating all life. You know, the fact is that if you look at where these movements are coming from and the funding is coming from, many of those sources are quite nefarious. And I don't think many of these corporations have any idea of what bed of sharks they're swimming with now.
Tom, Florida, one of the communities out there, Buffalo, New York, and Atlanta, we are seeing police officers who are either resigning from positions in the force or leaving the force altogether. You wrote an article on Newsmax about this, about where this is all going to lead to a cop shortage. Expand on that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Look, I spoke to somebody who's connected with the NYPD yesterday, and he said that so far 1,500 members of the NYPD have put in their papers for retirement. Look, for all the white, woke suburbanites out there who think that this is just going to be an urban problem, it's going to be someplace else. This is going to be across the board. And you've got states like New York and New Jersey and Connecticut that are making it easier to sue cops. Chuck Schumer wants to end qualified immunity. And we're seeing exposure of internal affairs investigations and records for police officers. And the Democrats have really decided, they've made a choice here, and they've decided to put aside what Tim Scott said today, which is that most cops are good people who take great risks to serve their community. And they've started treating them like thugs, like a street gang that needs to be eliminated. This isn't about reforming policing. This is about eliminating policing and vilifying the profession. Who's going to want to do this job? And we're going to see this all across America. And it's not necessarily because of what happens in Congress or what the administration does. You're seeing really radical things being done by leftist city councils and at the state and local level in all across America. And we need to pay close attention to it, because it's going to be catastrophic for not only cops, but also local communities.
Is it a political calculation they're making? Because and let me just stick with you, Tom, because I think what they believe is that those of us in the minority communities, they believe that we don't like cops, and that we believe that cops are out there assassinating Latino people, assassinating black people. And so Democrats, in exchange for votes, even though all the places you mentioned are all liberal cities, wherever you see people who are minorities in despair, economically or otherwise, you will find a liberal in charge, either in city hall or in state government. So is this just the Democrats trying to blame the cops so that the people will vote for them still and not blame them and their policies?
Well, it's really two things, Chris. One, it's about turnout in the November election, which makes it really sad and insidious. But it's also about the fact that they don't want to have the conversation about 50 years of failed housing, education, and welfare policy that has created systemic inequalities. They don't want to talk about the people getting killed on the streets of Chicago and St. Louis and Baltimore. They want to blame somebody else, and they're blaming America's police officers. And it's really sick. And like I said, it's going to impact every community. Again, would you want your son or daughter to become a police officer in this environment? The answer is probably no, if they're going to be put in greater danger because of the policies of the left.
And Jesse Jane, I want to talk to you about all of a sudden the press. They have been checked out from the China virus. But now that Donald Trump has made an announcement, I'm going to get back on the campaign trail. Now, all of a sudden, the China virus is back. It magically disappeared when we had a whole bunch of rioters and thousands of leftists out there taking to the streets and burning our neighborhoods down. But now it's back. What is your take on that?
You know, if you watch the press conference today with the spokesperson, Kayleigh McEnary, she was very clear that maybe on the 15th question, she said, look, I've already answered 10 questions already about this. And I'm saying the same thing, that we will put protective measures in place. We will do temperature checks. We will ensure that people are showing up, but you also have showing up without fevers. But she said you also are taking your own risk in anything that you participate in life, such as baseball games, such as any type of sporting activity. So it's ridiculous that each reporter thought they were going to get a gotcha moment out of her, and she threw that right back at him and said, it's interesting how you never made these comments about the massive protests, and let's just not say protests, rioters, that only to their advantage, the rioters were able to wear masks so that they're not even identifiable where it should be. And I said this weeks ago, this is a huge risk for criminal activity to uprise because now you have difficulty in identifying people. Any type of riots or protests, it should be illegal to have face masks on because that's what the KKK did. But now you got these reporters going after a Trump rally, and she just basically stated to them, what is your area of interest? It seems to be what you will go after, but you were not interested in addressing this with the thousands upon thousands of people that were showing up in without any restriction in New York City, in Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles. I mean, the list goes on and on. She says, and you had a big problem with people pushing back against the confinement orders, but you didn't have a problem with the protesters. She's basically calling them hypocrites.
And they are hypocrites. And guys, thank you very much. Appreciate that, folks. And I think our panel just articulated that beautifully. What they're worried about is Donald Trump connecting once again with the American people. They are scared to death in the biased press of that.